My name is Shannon Demko. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, in the US. I'm originally from New Jersey in the US. I've spent about the past 20 years in graduate business admissions, about 10 years on the admissions committee and as a director of admissions at two different schools here in the US, and just a little over 9 years now as an admissions coach. Within that space of admissions coaching, I also do quite a bit of mindfulness coaching around things like making career decisions, taking the GMAT or GRE, right? So I do some performance coaching, test anxiety coaching, mindset coaching, really, on an individual basis and on a group basis. I'm certified in mindfulness meditation instruction as well as yoga, and I'm a writer, editor, and blogger with my site, MindfulMBA, which is the space through which I do sessions like this, as well as the one-on-one coaching, whether it's on the admissions side or the mindset side, or maybe I work with you later in your career when you're trying to make a future move of some kind, right? So, really excited to be here with you. This particular space is one that I'm really passionate about because I've spent my career in graduate business admissions, but then I have this personal passion for mindfulness because I've seen in my own life what a powerful set of tools it can be to help you to just be more present. And in doing so, to really leverage, utilize, bring to the forefront your particular skills and strengths so that when you go into something like taking the GMAT or the GRE, you're actually able to access everything that you know, right? And utilize the skills that you have honed through your many hours, I'm assuming, of practice questions. The reason that I connect this, that this, even has a place in the MBA space, is because a lot of the qualities that we work to hone through the practice of mindfulness, and that's a really broad term. We talked on some of the earlier calls about mindfulness can be meditation and breath work, but it can also be just bringing truly focused attention to the real physical experience of whatever you're doing right now, even if it's washing dishes or folding laundry, rather than kind of being up in your head and just marinating there, just being physically a part of that experience. So it can be a lot of different things, but the qualities that we strengthen and that really begin to emerge when we develop a regular mindfulness practice are leadership skills. And you can see how each of these things are just a few that I thought of, align with what I think are the three qualities necessary to practice mindfulness. One is your attention. So you show up, you're like, okay, I'm here, I'm paying attention. The second is intention. You're there on purpose, right? And breath, which really is body, connection to your physical self. And a lot of emphasis is placed in the MBA space on your intellect, your work ethic, right? Your ability to just keep going forward. And oftentimes less emphasis is placed on the fact that you are doing all of this out of a human body and that human body has limitations and needs, right? So that you want to be mindful. Mindfulness connects me to like, okay, what's actually going on in my body today? Do I need to stay more hydrated? Do I need to dial up or dial down the caffeine? Do I need more sleep? Do I need to move? What do I need to make myself as physically present and physically capable as possible? Because we all come into the MBA space because we have big goals and dreams, right? But you want to be able to be there, quite literally, to be there for them, right? To be able to spend as much time as possible doing the things that you envision yourself doing. So we broke down a lot of that fight, flight, or freeze and the physical implications of mindfulness in some of the earlier sessions. But if there are questions about them here, I'm always happy to address them. As far as questions go, you're welcome to drop them in the chat. However, know that I am the only presenter, so it can be tough for me to keep up with the questions. I would like to allocate some space towards the end for you to do that as well. But just an FYI on that, I'll do my best to keep my eye on it, but I want to focus on the content first. I've also mentioned in previous sessions that because I know I'm talking to very smart people, I don't want to dismiss the fact that there's a lot of scientific evidence that indicates that regular mindfulness practices, even as short as 5 or 10, some as many as 15 minutes on a regular basis, every day or several times a day, several times a week rather, sorry. Several times a day if you can, but several times a week can have a significant impact on a lot of different sort of practical behavioral aspects of being you. And you see mindfulness showing up and being used not only in the test prep space like this, in the MBA space, but in the corporate world, in the military world. It's in schools, working with kids. It's everywhere because One of the great things about mindfulness is that you can just practice it as yourself. You don't need equipment, you don't need resources, you just need attention, intention, and breath, right? And we can all do that. We're wired for this. Just as much as we're wired for stress, we're wired to de-stress. So, interestingly, so the first two sessions, in case you weren't here, session one was called Calm, and session two was called Focus. And we spent them doing some of the types of practices you might expect to come out of mindfulness. So we did breath work, we did some guided visualization, we've done a few different things that are designed to bring the body out of stress mode and into anti-stress mode, right? So out of fight, flight, or freeze into rest and digest. Out of the sympathetic nervous system, activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And we did that. We talked about how even just taking one really truly deep breath that fills up your whole belly, right? Not just like up here stuck in the throat, but really fills the belly, begins to activate the vagus nerve, which is a super long nerve that runs from the base of your brain down to the base of your spine. Activating the vagus nerve tells the body, oh, okay, I'm not in danger right now. I can start to relax, and enables you to access your decision-making capabilities, your rational thinking, the things you want when you're taking the GMAT. So we talked about that. Then we talked about how mindfulness can help you focus, right? Mindfulness, the definition you may remember from previous sessions, paying attention on purpose to the present moment and non-judgmentally. Kind of a mouthful, but I want you to think about sitting in the GMAT and just doing that, paying attention fully to the present moment, meaning the question on the screen, on purpose, okay, I'm doing it on purpose, and non-judgmentally, without the story, right? Without the story about how it's going, what's going to happen when it's over, what's going to happen with my, admissions process, etc. So we worked on focus using things as simple as like just zoning in on, the letter D on the screen here, right? Just really dialing into like what is actually happening here. Okay, these words are actually on the screen. The story I was writing about who knows what, it's not actually happening. And what I want to be doing is focusing on the simple nature of the problem on the screen. What we're going to do today is start managing what we are all quite familiar with, which is fatigue. Fatigue is what happens when you're not taking great care of yourself. You're sacrificing sleep, you're sacrificing nutrition, you're sacrificing exercise, and you're doing something. Sort of the irony there is that you're sacrificing all of that so that you can do something that actually requires you to be really sharp in all of those areas. As I said at the beginning of the session, taking the GMAT exam is a physical experience in your body, it's a mental experience in your mind, and it's a psychological and emotional experience. And so you need to be caring for yourself like you're, about to run a marathon or go on a big hike or something, right? You need to prepare in all ways for it. But we get groggy because we're human, but we also get groggy because we're not hydrating and all that kind of stuff, right? So there are actually a number of different techniques that you can utilize to help you to fight off some of that sleepiness that happens. And if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you've been doing practice problems for 5 hours, maybe you just need to go to bed, right? Sometimes your body is going to give you a simple answer to a simple situation. I'm tired, you should sleep. But at other times we don't have that option, and it isn't one we would want to accept if we did. So we're going to do a few different things. One of them is a body scan, which is actually going to start to help just center us, right? We've all been living our Thursdays and out there doing other things. And before we move into this practice, we're going to just center a little bit. And then I'm going to take us from there into just a little bit of a body scan that works with bringing energy up in the body. We're going to take a break. During that break, I'm going to show you some different breathing exercises you can do to help energize you. And some of them are pretty funny. And the great part is you get to watch me do them without having to have anybody watch you do them. Isn't that great? That's why I'm here in the video box, right? So I'm going to show you some of those techniques you'll be able to use on your own. They're really simple. And we'll have those. And then we're going to do a guided visualization Actually, we're going to kind of talk first about Test Eve and then go into guided visualization as time allows. If we don't have time, I'm going to describe to you what the visualization would entail because it's something that you can do on your own as well. Okay, so a little bit of something for everybody, different stuff here and there along the way. But at this point, I'm actually going to dive into our practice because I'm sure you're here to learn what to do more than just listen to me talk. So I'm going to invite you to make yourself comfortable wherever you are. Thanks, Steph. I appreciate the support. Love it. I'm going to invite you to settle in. Make yourself comfortable. Find that balance between awareness and comfort, right? So if your temptation right now is to lay down and curl up in the fetal position, you're probably just going to fall asleep. It's not going to be super energizing. So maybe take a seat. If you choose to lie down, maybe keep your eyes open as we do this. And you can also always stand. And then part of your practice becomes just like literally feeling your body stacked on the earth. So finding your preferred position. You might want to close your eyes. You might want to keep them open. It's up to you. I'm going to give you something to look at if you prefer, an image. And from here, just take a nice, slow, deep breath in through your nose. Try to drag the breath out a little bit. And open your mouth. And nice and slow and steady, let the breath go. Nice. We'll do that again. Breathing in through the nose, nice and slow, maybe even counting all the way to 3 or 4. And exhale, let it go. Try to equal the exhale to your inhale, especially if you were counting. Maybe even exhale a little more. And just take a few more breaths like that. And if for any reason the intentional breathing is bothering you today, that's okay. You can let it go and just breathe and watch the breath. Feeling your body soften into the chair or the floor. Noticing any places where you might be resisting gravity, resisting relaxation. See if you can intentionally use your exhales to soften those places. Often between the eyebrows, the jaw, letting the shoulders fall a little farther away from the ears. And Kush is asking if we should be breathing out through the mouth always. Not at all, Kush. You can choose to inhale and exhale through your nose if you like. It's going to build a little more heat in the body to do that. And we're actually headed there to me asking you to do that in just a few minutes. So well done. And draw your awareness now internally, kind of traveling your internal gaze to the base of your spine. And imagine there a circle of light, any color, any size, any amount of brightness, warm and glowing right there by your tailbone. Imagine that energy kind of popping and moving, really vibrant energy. And as you inhale, imagine that ball of energy slowly moving up your spine, almost like a nice slow elevator. As it travels up your spine, you feel your spine awaken, sitting up a bit taller until it moves all the way up your spine, across the back of your head to the top of your head. And it stays here, but it's gently pulling the top of your head closer to the ceiling. As it stays here, that energy that it holds continues to travel up and down your spine. Feeling yourself beginning to awaken just in response to the nature of this energy. Begin to notice the energy expanding outward from your spine, from the back of your head, top of your head, traveling across your shoulders, your ribs, your hips, rolling down each of your arms until it moves out through your fingertips. Maybe even feeling a sense of buzzing there. And same as it begins to move from your hips down your legs, across your knees, your ankles to each of your toes. And eventually your whole body is here, sparkling, feeling awakened. Almost as if you're like a carbonated beverage. Maybe your breath begins to expand here as well. And just seeing this vibrant light emanating from every cell in your body. Feeling yourself sitting up at attention. Even at the same time, your joints and your muscles soften. There's no work required here. The energy just expands and fills you on its own. Taking a deep breath in and let that breath go. And without making any effort to dispel this energy, just begin to shift your focus to also include the space around you. Maybe you start noticing some of the sounds that are inevitable in shared space. Maybe you start to notice some of the sensations on your skin of the space around you. You can even begin, if you like, to rub your hands together, just generating a little heat. And you can place your hands anywhere that you want to on your body, around your neck, your shoulders, your hips, anywhere where tightness is hanging out. And as a final step, if your eyes are closed, you can slowly begin to open them just a little bit at first, blinking, allowing light and shadows to come in. And then eventually all the shapes and colors of the space around you, feeling all of your senses, drawing you back into the space. If it would feel good to take a little bit of movement here, you're always free to do that. Hope you all are feeling good. Feel free to share in the chat if you have questions there. But all we did was basically use the breath and use visualization of the energy in the body, right? We're energetic beings, whether you look at that from a scientific perspective or otherwise. And we can kind of work with that energy, right? We can remind ourselves to sit up a little taller and move that energy throughout the body. So that was a body scan with a little bit of visualization to it. But I also do want to share with you a few different breathwork options that you have to consider. And these, I said, are a little more fun. And the cool thing is you don't have to do them unless you want to. I can't see you or hear you anyway. But I'm going to do them. So one of them, Kush gave us the perfect introduction with the question in the chat. One of them is a form of breathing that you can do. And as a side note, a lot of these breathwork techniques are practices you're going to want to try probably alone or among friends. You may not want to do too many of them in the testing center necessarily unless you're on a break, right? You can head into the bathroom or something like that and try them there. But some of them might work. You're free to try whatever you want. The first one is a type of breathing that is a type of breathing that is going to activate the heat within your body, right? And so as Kush was saying, we're going to inhale and exhale through the nose. This is sometimes called ocean breath because you'll notice as you do this, this is nice deep breathing, The breath rolls along the back of the throat and causes a sound that sounds a bit like the ocean at a distance, right? This breath is often, if you do yoga, particularly like vinyasa yoga, it's called ujjayi breath, which means a victorious breath, which is really wonderful for using in a movement practice like yoga, but you don't need to be doing yoga to do it. And all you're going to do, it's as simple as it sounds. Inhale through the nose, lips stay sealed, exhale through the nose. And notice I'm breathing slowly, like I'm allowing the breath to take its time coming in, filling up the whole chest cavity, right? It's not just getting stuck up here. I'm letting the breath come down here. And then as you exhale through the nose, you might hear that sound, which is kind of a nice bonus, right? Makes you think of a nice beachside environment. So doing that a few times repeatedly begins to build heat in the body, which is why it's so often used in yoga. But it's also energizing, right? So you have the sound component, you're activating an additional sense. You're intentionally involved in the effort to breathe only through your nose. And then there's the actual heat building that happens in the body, right? So that's ocean breath or ujjayi breath. That's one option that you can use just to warm the body up. Some of the other types of breath work are a little bit more experimental, let's say. They're well documented, but one of them is called bumblebee breath. And the reason it's called bumblebee breath is because, just like ocean breath, of the sound that it makes. So the sound with bumblebee breath, you're going to work with vibration on the roof of the mouth. So you inhale through the nose, and you also exhale through the nose, but this time, you're introducing sound to it. And you'll be surprised if I were to follow that exhale all the way to the end. It takes quite a lot, quite a bit of time to do that. Your breath lasts a really long time when it's released that way. So it's awakening you because of the sound and also the vibration that's going up through the roof of your mouth up into the rest of your skull cavity up there, right? Your nasal cavity, etc. So give it a shot, see how it feels. You could do it even just a few times and you start to notice that kind of natural carbonation that comes from it. So you inhale and exhale. If you happen to have kids in your life in any capacity, kids love doing bumblebee breath. It's very relatable, and we all have an inner child, right? So we can enjoy that. So we have ocean breath, we have bumblebee breath. We can also work with lion's breath. This one you're probably not going to do in front of people. Whenever I teach it in my yoga classes, I usually teach it when my students are in a position where their heads are down and they can't see each other because people become very self-conscious, but it's fun. And fun is energizing too. So you're just going to breathe in any old way. When you exhale, when you just stick your tongue out and open your eyes really big. So you're going to breathe in, exhale. Aren't you glad I'm the only one on video? Breathe in. And like really mean it. Don't go halfway. Like own that lion's breath. Breathe it all the way out. And it does this really wonderful kind of like, has this really wonderful shedding quality. If you've had a tough day, you've had a tough practice test, you're in between sections and you're feeling really groggy, 3 to 5 of these is gonna like perk you right up. It's really amazing. It is potentially not as long lasting as caffeine, but the breath is always there, and it's potentially less, well, potentially better for you. I'll just say that, right? So that's lion's breath. You're breathing in and breathing out. So that's your third one. And then the fourth type of breath that I want to introduce is called a few different things, sometimes called Kapalbhati breathing, sometimes called just breath of fire, but it is heating. So this is one that goes like a little more into the territory of some of you may be like, I don't know what she's doing. I don't want to do that. But it is my obligation and responsibility to introduce you to as many options as possible. I think if you try this, you might think it's kind of cool. So with this breath, we're going to work with forced exhales. let me put a disclaimer out there that if you are expecting, if you are pregnant right now, you may want to opt out of this particular practice and just work with one of the other ones that we've done already for a few minutes. That's the traditional advice anyway. If you are suffering from nasal congestion right now, many of us here in the Eastern US are deeply feeling that due to seasonal allergies. But if you happen to be having that experience, have some tissues nearby, okay? Because we're going to force exhales out through the nose. So you're going to start, I'm going to demo first, and then I'm going to do more of them, and you can choose to do them with me or not. But I'm actually going to put my hands down on my diaphragm. That's that space right below my rib cage. And that's the part of my body that I'm going to work the most closely with as we go through this practice. So I'm going to really quickly just show you a round of 5 because these are very rapid exhales. The interesting thing about this, or the thing that was most surprising to me when I first started practicing this breath work, was the inhales take care of themselves. So your first thought naturally is like, well, if I'm only working with exhales, I'm eventually going to pass out, right? Because no inhales. But if you force your breath out, your body immediately takes a breath in. And I'll do just 5 here, and you'll be able to maybe kind of see that happen. If for any reason you do feel like you're hyperventilating or something, don't just stop, right? It's just breath work. You're allowed to stop. So I'm going to put my hands on my diaphragm. I'm going to take a regular breath in and out, and then begin. Breathe in. That was 5. You heard a forced exhale come out of my nose every single time. So the lips stay sealed, and it's like a very fast ujjayi. So I'll do it again 5 times just so you can see how it works. Regular breath in, regular breath out. Inhale to begin. Try it out. Maybe take a few, see if it works. Notice how that inhale just happens and you begin to trust yourself. The traditional way to practice this breath is a round of 30, 3 times. Yes, Kapalabhati. You got it, Kush. You could probably pronounce it better than I can, but that's exactly the Sanskrit name for it. So if you would like to practice it with me, we're going to go up to 30. And traditionally, it would be 30 breaths, 3 times each for a total of 90 breaths. Okay. I'm going to try around all the way through to 30. It goes really, really fast. So you're welcome to try it with me. If you need to pause it at any point, you're in charge. You get to do that. So sitting up nice and tall, hands one over the other on your diaphragm. Take a regular breath in and let it go. Inhale to begin. "25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, let it go. Just breathe nice and regular. You might feel just a little bit lightheaded. That is normal. It's actually part of the awakening quality of the breath. And I won't literally belabor the point by continuing us through all of the 3 rounds of the breathing, but I did want you to at least have this option as a resource for stoking that inner fire. Another way that this is sometimes practiced, if you've ever worked with Kundalini yoga, and again, you don't need to do yoga to do this kind of breathing, there's an overlap sometimes, is by lifting the arms up to the sky and pulling them down with each of the breaths, or sometimes just holding them up and keeping them there through the entire duration of it. And they actually do far more than 30. When they do that in Kundalini, they do it sometimes for 2 minutes straight. So a bit of a challenge in another way, but it's just a way to utilize the heat in your body. Like think of it almost as if a lot of these breaths, like Ujjayi, the ocean breath rather, and Kapalabhati, it's like if when you're cooking and you put a lid on top of a pot, right? You're just sort of trapping some of that steam, some of that heat. And if it ever becomes too much, then you just take the lid off, and go back to your breathing. So we've got 4 different breathwork techniques there. And I know we moved pretty quickly through them. I have a tendency to run out of time on these sessions. So I wanted to see if we could get all the way through. We did a little visualization, moving that light energy through your body, waking yourself up, sitting up taller. And then we worked with ocean breathing, or Ujjayi. We worked with bumblebee breath. We worked with lion's breath. And then we worked with Kapalbhati, or breath of fire there. And these are ways that you can just, like, you're breathing anyway. right? So if you have this tool with you that you could try to use to maybe naturally energize yourself in an environment where taking a nap, downing extra caffeine or whatever is just not going to happen, or maybe isn't in your best interest, even if it can, um, you have this option, these options, and you don't have to do all of them. You can choose one that you like and work with that one. Okay. Um, so where I'm going to take us next is talking about test eve and test day and keeping your energy good there. And then hopefully we'll have a few minutes to at least talk about a guided visualization practice that could be really nice for you as another option. My goal with all of these sessions is to provide options, not to give you a laundry list of new practices and tasks that you have to do all of, but just to try to introduce to you the wide array of practices that comprise mindfulness. There are just so many different ways to practice mindfulness, and the more you're aware of that, all those offerings, the more likely you are to find one that works for you, um, and to keep with it, right? Because it's ultimately the practice, the ongoing practice, that begins to shift our everyday base level of stress, our ability to manage stress as it arises throughout the day, versus only managing, only using mindfulness when we feel the stress coming, right? You've heard me make this analogy before, but it's like working out. If you need to do something like climb a bunch of stairs really fast because something stressful is going on, you're more likely to be able to do that if you exercise on a regular basis, right? So same thing goes with mindfulness. So many of you, you're working with great tutors, great teachers at TTP. So I'm sure they've talked with you about preparing for test day. And I always defer to their expertise in these settings, but I do tend to think of it, I used to do long distance races as a runner. And in the days before, really like the week before the big race, you're not going to be running 15 miles every day that week, right? Because you have to begin to acknowledge that you're preparing your body and your mind for the big day, which is usually in races like a Saturday or a Sunday, right? So you begin to taper your miles and your workouts so that your body is actually rested when you get to race day. So I would suggest talking with your tutor or your instructor about how to do that in your particular situation, but you don't want to run full speed into test day. You want to take care of your body, recognizing, I said it before and I'll say it again, the GMAT and the GRE are physical endeavors as much as they are intellectual ones. So as you move towards test day, you're being conscious about the nutrition you're putting in your body. I am not a nutritionist. I am not going to tell you exactly what to eat, but I can tell you that if you eat an ice cream sundae before you go in to take the GMAT, you're probably not going to feel good for that entire exam, right? So we want to think about things like protein, a mix of protein, fruits or veggies, and complex carbohydrates that digest over time. Like rice, for example, quinoa, barley, amaranth, just maybe not like 5 slices of big, crusty loaf of bread, something like that, right? You want to keep your mind nice and clear, keep your machine moving efficiently. And you'd probably want to start making those choices the day before your exam, right? Just to make sure that you wake up feeling really good. We're staying hydrated, right? Drinking lots of water, and just trying to make sure that the body is in top operating working order on test day. Of course, I hope that you're practicing mindfulness. I hope that's something that you're doing anyway, most days. Um, but mindfulness, we'll come back to that in a second. There's a particular kind of mindfulness that I recommend for the day before your test. You got to get rest. You got to sleep. And I know anxiety makes that so hard, right? Really, really hard. So while you're laying in bed, there is a type of breathing that you can do if you're having trouble with insomnia. This particular type of breath, I've heard about it mostly from Dr. Andrew Weil or Weil, Weil. I'm not sure. He operates out of the US. He's been on Oprah, all those things, but it's called 4-7-8 breath. And it sounds crazy. And even when you go to try it, you're going to think this isn't going to work. And then somehow it just does. I can tell you from personal experience. But you inhale to a count of 4. hold for a count of 7, exhale to a count of 8, and just keep doing it. Inhale 4, hold 7, exhale 8. Don't panic. Like, you are going to exhale. You are going to get to inhale again. Like, the breath cycle will continue. I think it's a combination of resetting the nervous system as well as giving you kind of an unusual task to focus on. It's almost like the equivalent of counting sheep, if anyone has ever heard of that, that resolution for insomnia. So look it up if you're interested. 4-7-8 breath, and the doctor I learned it through is Andrew Weil, Weil, or Weil. But you can do that because you got to rest, right? A sleepy mind is not an active and engaged mind. So you got to get that done. Get yourself to bed for a couple nights before if you can, right? You'll have plenty of time to be excited and celebrate when the test is over, but take it nice and easy. Take good care of yourself. Do things that feel like self-care to you during these days. And finally, mindfulness. So here's a really interesting thing that you can do that has been proven through a research study to have an impact on standardized test scores. The night before your exam, get yourself a notepad or whatever you like to write on and spend 15 minutes writing about things that you are grateful for. Okay? 15 minutes, anything, right? It can be, oh, my life, my family, the stars in the sky. It can be pizza. It can be the certain music that you like. It can be anything. In 15 minutes, you can come up with a lot of things, and pretty soon you're like, I'm thankful for, sprinkles on ice cream. I don't know, right? Um, so, Steven's asking if you could type them. I'm sure you could. I do think there's something, and this really could just be personal preference. I'd be interested, Steven, in your thoughts about it. If typing is as relaxing as writing or scribbling or drawing. I think there's something slightly different to the like pen on paper experience, but I'm open to feedback on it. But really the bigger point is that it is nearly impossible, as far as I understand, to hold a negative thought and a grateful thought at the same time. So a lot of our stress as we move into test day is about, am I ready? Can I do this? Is it going to be hard? Is it going to be whatever? Is it going to work out? When you're actively thinking about things in your life, in the world, whatever that make you grateful, you're not in that first thought space. You're in a different one, right? Neurochemically, your body starts to change, right? You're flooding your body with oxytocin. Lots of good things are happening as we think about the people we love, the places we love to visit, the food we love to eat, like just things about life that we love. And then there's the bigger perspective that no matter what happens in your GMAT exam, the majority, if not all of the things you're grateful for will still be there, right? That the things that make you happiest, that make you feel fulfilled in your life, are not dependent on how you perform on the exam, right? And that is a really important energy shift. Because by the time we get to the GMAT or GRE, most of us are thinking that the rest of our lives hinges on this moment. And in reality, it probably doesn't, right? It's a reminder that no matter what, you're going to be okay. And that a lot of what you really love about your life in the world is not going to change regardless of what happens in there, right? And so that's important not only for us to understand, but also for our nervous systems to hear. Right. And again, we know from the very beginning of these sessions, a calm nervous system allows us to access the information we know, to do the things that we're capable of doing. It allows us to really bring our very, very best selves forward to the test. So we're a bit short on time. I'll tell you about the guided visualization that I like. And this is one that anybody can do. I want to give you permission to envision the best case scenario. So as humans, we spend a lot of time preparing for the worst, right? And just assuming it won't go well so that if we if it does go well, we're pleasantly surprised or whatever, right? We don't want to be disappointed. And what we do with our energy there is start pointing all of it in the direction of things not going well. And so I want to just offer permission. I don't give you permission to do things, but I'm going to encourage you to offer yourself permission to actually envision in detail things going really well. And this can be you imagining your test day in detail, like pulling up to the testing center, checking in, sitting down, like all those things. It can be as simple as imagining the moment at the end of the test when the number comes up on the screen and it's a number you're excited to see. You imagine yourself telling your family and telling your friends how well it went, and just lean all the way into it in that visualization. Feel the feelings, the relief, the excitement, whatever it is. And notice if you start trying to check yourself. Oh, don't feel that too much. Oh, don't go that far. Oh, you wanted a 720. Let's just make it a 690 though. Like let's not be too greedy. Right? Notice if you start sending yourself those messages. You don't need to send yourself those messages. You are allowed to dream as big as you want to dream. You are allowed to envision things going not only well, but beyond your wildest dreams well. And you are allowed to fully experience that visualization in detail, right? Think about like who would you call first? What is the number you want to see on the screen? What does it feel like to be taking the exam and just to be moving through the questions, right? And to not be stuck or, you know, uh, as I think Mateo was saying in the chat, like if a question doesn't work out, move on to the next one, right? And feel ease in doing that and letting go of a question that you know is just not going to be productive for you to spend time on, right? And truly let go of it. Like put it in the past and move into the present with the question that's on the screen, right? Like all of these things allow you to really be your best, most energized, most fully present self when you're taking the exam. This is one of my favorite quotes, and I think it really, I love sharing quotes. You guys have figured this out by now, right? Um, it really gets to what we're doing when we're pursuing the MBA. The MBA is a really, really unique endeavor in terms of graduate education in that there's such a deeply personal element to it. There's an opportunity for personal growth that just doesn't necessarily exist as readily in any other field of graduate study. And it gives you the chance to look inside and really figure out what are my gifts and what do I want to do with them. And you can use mindfulness to help you to do that exploration. You can use it to shift your energy levels up and down as you need to. But I encourage you, as you're doing this, to really give yourself permission to dream. Give yourself permission to imagine the biggest, best possible outcome of everything that you are inclined to pursue. Magical things can really happen when you allow yourself to start putting energy towards that instead of resisting it and not wanting it too much. Like go all in and let it just be about trying to get the best possible outcome for yourself, even if it may turn out to be a little different than what you think. Just being as open as possible to the things that emerge along the way in this journey. I want to thank you for letting me take up your time. Some of you have been with me for all 3 sessions, and that really warms my heart. If I can support you in any way, answering questions, I can take some if they are in the chat. I'm seeing some great comments that are making me smile. So thanks for those. If you're interested in working one-on-one or you have a group that you'd like to work with, I'd be happy to hear from you either on the admission side or on the mindfulness coaching side, or you can just follow along on social media and let me know how you're doing. Want to thank you all so much. Absolutely. We have already, answering Pooja's question, we have already done all 3 of the sessions. So this was the 3rd one. They've been every other week for the past, I guess, month and a half. And there was a question about imposter syndrome. I do have several blog posts on that topic. It didn't really fit into today's session, but I have several blog posts on the topic on the Mindful MBA website. So you may want to check that out. and search for those. Hopefully, those would be useful to you in your consideration. Reach out to me with any questions that you may have. Thanks, everybody.